Oh boy. Hey everybody. Uh Sorry I'm late. It was either get a cup of coffee or be on time. I got chocolate all over this side. Oh, well. Um oh boy. Hi Geezer and Stefan. Um I am in that Ballard Ponzi scheme with a double balance. Huh. Should be arriving today, if not a new concept, a Ponzi scheme, though. Nothing like a Ponzi scheme. Okay, let's see. What new is going on? Hi, NS something. Watch HS lecture resonance yesterday, and I managed to spot you. Oh boy, we're talking watch marketing today. Yeah, I, I thought a lot of stuff has sort of come out during this pandemic, and I don't know. There are some things that have been extremely good. The pollution level has gone down to, I think, a historic low almost, and that's because everyone's at home instead of out driving around in their cars. And I don't know whether as soon as it's over, people are going to want to drive a lot more, a lot less. I don't know. And I very carefully I watched the way book sales went and how over a period of 20 years they've been totally transformed. And uh, the big market maker was Barnes and Noble, and now they're like I don't know. I like going into a Barnes and Noble. I like touching the books. I love browsing. I go to their all of the different parts of it and really enjoy it. I mean, it's sort of like it's better than a library too because the way they have everything out. Um, and but still, that's not where people really get most of their book sales or buy books. The other thing is sort of funny. A couple companies that started off scrambling, like Amazon and like Apple, for years, Apple was like, barely making it one year after another. And then after the couple things happened, one was the fact that Steve Jobs recognized you really don't need a hard drive when most of the stuff going on is on the internet. And to the point where the only even an external CD drive is not included, and most people don't use it. And you start seeing things like that happen. Is that who needs a physical tune, so to speak? I have a bunch of my old CDs back there, and there's some even older vinyls that my wife had left over. And the thing of it is that uh, things change, and I see it. I've seen this creeping along for a number of times, and they want to maintain this model. You go into a really nice store. I think that if you're a Rolex AD or if you're a Patek Philippe AD, you have to have a really nice store, which means a really expensive nut you're going to be paying in certain locations. Like our Patek Philippe store is in one of the most expensive places in an expensive town around where we live. And then you go down to Fairfield County, and they're down around Greenwich, and those are just like super expensive. But that's where they have the biggest variety of the kinds of watches that we generally tend to like. I have on my FP Journe Chronomat Souverain today because I felt like wearing it. That's what I like about. But yesterday I was starting to do a bunch of yard work and stuff like that. So out came the Seiko 5. Poor my mule beating watch. But anyway, I was the more I thought about this is that it's not only the watch business, but I think business in general, because certain things are being discovered, and this is not good for people traditional jobs. You take a job where traditionally you interact with a clerk in a store, something like that, and now some of these big chains like Walmart and Walgreens and some of the other ones are discovering, hey, we can do this without brick and mortar anymore. And so you have a sort of something that's been going on for a while, but I think it's going to be going on more and more and more. Now there are two parts to this. If you look in the fashion industry, um, you take, for example, Saks Fifth Avenue. That's you know sort of pretty fancy store in New York, but now there's Saks Fifth Avenue. You can find it in different malls. You can find the outlets, and then you can find there's another place that once it goes to the after it goes to the outlet, there's one more step. And that's why I go shopping. But I mean, you, the the fact that you could do something without the same amount of expense. Now, you tell me, what do you think a business is going to do? Uh, I wonder if things like, for example, in universities right now, most topics, like let's say you're teaching a math course or well, maybe not physics, but sort of physics. You don't need a classroom. You really don't. You need a computer and people communicating. And people say, well, I want to, I like talking, I like the interaction with the students. Sure, you do. Who wouldn't? But when it comes down to what you can afford, that's changing again and again. Um, Let me give you an example because people are starting to, what about the quality and so on and so forth. I think that question has been asked and answered. And I'll give you one example. Over one Christmas break, for some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to take a course in early New England poetry. All right, that Harvard was offering through the what's something called edX that was set up by I think it was originally set up with Harvard and MIT or one of those. I don't know which one. Anyway, so this course they had was just amazing. And now, what would I want to learn about early New England poetry for? Because I've always been very interested in the Puritans and the whole Reformation, because the Reformation had huge impact on watch building, and so it just was an interesting thing. So I took the course, and it was really amazing. Had a good time and everything. It was the first time they had taught the course, and the woman who was teaching it was a Harvard professor, and she was doing things that normally wouldn't be done in class. For example, she was talking about how she went to one of the old churches in Boston and how they had their meetings was sung. And then she has these students that were like, you know, incredible singers singing the hymns that they used to. And then she went out in the fields where there were a number of different kinds of influence on poetry. Most of it was a very strong personal interaction with with religious beliefs, and so you had a lot of really interesting poetry. But the things that happened to people back then were terrible. I mean, they were really rough. This one woman, I forgot her name. She was talking about how all of her kids had died. Jesus Christ! I mean, like, whoa. All right, now I say that because this professor was going all of these different places, And like I said, this was the first time she had ever done it, and they ever had this course, and I was like, "Whoa!" They went here, they went there, they went all these different places, which you really normally wouldn't do in class, unless you did it, with a TV screen or something. Um, and so here was an area that could really have a lot of change going on. Okay, so universities are supposed to be more innovative than your corner drugstore. I don't know about that. The corner drugstore, they're getting pretty innovative. But and so what changed that? Well, a lot of things. One of the more interesting things where my son teaches at LA State in LA, and this is a huge Cal State University system uh, school. It's a great big one. And the problem is driving in LA is just a hellish experience. And if any of you are from LA, you probably know that already. And so the students and the faculty and everybody else was having trouble with all of this commuting, plus housing prices there are just insane. So people were living way out in San Joaquin Valley somewhere and having to commute. The average commute was 2.5 hours. That's a lot of time. And so they figured it out. They said, well, what we could do, we could start having hybrid courses. And so the students would go in once a week and then they would have the other online. Well, this is what they were doing when this thing hit. And so my son's class, well, he had hybrid and we got together. You need a faculty meeting, Zoom. You can do it with that. Or, so all of these things, it's not just the fact that they've been, I was going to say, well, they've been around for a while. I really know that. But the thing is that we've been forced to use them in ways that we hadn't maybe thought of before. Anyway, so this is like, well, people say, well, we just go back to the old ways. Not if the bean counters have their way, and they usually do, because they'll say, well, we used to have old Joe here in the shop, and we really don't need him, and we don't need the shop because then we can do two things. We can make our watches more competitive in terms of sales, in terms of pricing, and now I don't know. So all of these things I see happening in different places, and somehow uh, the watch industry is still trying to play the same old tune. That's like the guy who refuses to give up a horseshoeing job when the car was invented. It's something that was inevitable, and so what I was thinking is the inevitability of it starting to resonate more. And we begin to see it in certain ways. First of all, one thing we hadn't seen for I don't know how long were the prices of watches on websites. Now, some of them have had them for a long time, granted, but other ones haven't. And so if you go to Vacheron Constantin now, you click something and boom, up comes the price. Why would they do that? Well, if somebody says, well, if I click here, I don't have to drive to New York or some other place to get this watch. I can get it right here from Vacheron Constantin. Uh, and so I'll do that and have some kind of special deal. Vacheron Constantin has some weird policies. Um, when I went to get my second overseas when the OS3 came out in 2016, one of the good things about it was that the 8.5% sales tax that they have in New York City. Say, hell, if I do it from Connecticut, I don't have to pay that. Which is on a $20,000 watch, that's a lot of money. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll buy it from Connecticut, and you guys can send it to me. Not a problem with FP Journe, but a big problem with Vacheron Constantin. And it's sort of like, haven't you guys heard? I mean, like, there's a whole new reality out there. But they, oh, no, we can't do that. They said the only place you can we can ship it without sales taxes, Rhode Island. And the reason for it wasn't because Rhode Island is, is Rhode Island, but rather they didn't have any Vassar Constantin shops there. And so they didn't have any dealers. Whereas in Connecticut, I think they have at least two, and they're over by the New York border, but still, it's not too far of a drive to go there. But it's even easier to sit here at home and order one. And if they don't do it, you can get a brand new one through Juma Shop and save a huge amount, not only the tax, but you can save everything else. So I say that both as and partially in trepidation, because I know a lot of people depend on their jobs now, by sort of a showing up for work at a workshop. Now, the Patek Philippe Service Center in New York City is a little different because you have to have someone there that takes a watch and fix it, and they have all the tools to do it and everything else. Well, okay, yeah, that one of the things you probably can't do online, um, unless you're a pretentious watchmaker, and we can do everything badly, but we can do it. Okay, all right. I went rattling off. Let's see what you guys have been up to. Okay, hi, JB from Texas, and let's see, Clyde, how you doing? Thumbnail look. he, no, Clyde, he. Don't say he. I don't say he. It's Bill. Hey, Decon, you're a coffee guy too, huh? Bill, I have enjoyed an FP during cocktail party, and I hope they don't disengage. Oh, good. Um, Hi, Lee. People are buying vintage guitars online, and the sellers request the whole thing disassembled, every part weighed, photographed, etc. How long can if the sellers could do anything they want to, and then there are the guys that say, well, look, if we do this, we can save money. They got the bean counters there, and this is why you need. I think there's got to be some little part of it that is some little part that has to be left for some kind of talent working with a watch, other than making noise about it. Part of the problem is that the watch industry still has a lot of backwards clients. A lot of people on watch forums still live in the 80s. No kidding. And that's something that's exactly what you have. And I would say the 70s is probably more like it. At least in the 80s, people knew something about computers when the home computer came out. Let's see. The books cost hundreds each. There's a very few publicists, like two or three, and they update them so rarely. I think they barely have 9/11 in them. Yeah. 10, 15 years, it'll turn 180. I don't know. I have, oh, well, you mean the whole thing from what it is now? There's, I, one of the things back when computers were young, we used to do all kinds of stuff that because it was sort of like there was no rules anymore of the same old rules. And so we tried all kinds of different things because we could. Not necessarily they were a good idea or too profitable, but we did. Some people became very profitable. This friend of mine was had a software company, and his software company just always hung on by a thread, always. And no matter what, some product of his would come up that would keep the business in business. One I remember was this one called Spanish for the Traveler, and that was it. And another time he had an assembler and this and that. And he finally uh, somehow ended up with something called, wasn't HyperCard, but it was Hyper something or other that educators used. And educators were using this software and making literally millions of dollars. And so at some point, some, you know, engulf and devour mega company thought, oh boy, if we had that, we could take that million and make billions with it. And so they bought his company. And when I say they bought it for huge amount of money, huge, just gigantic. Um, and he and I got to know the guy. This is another example where I was a bad influence. Don't think that I'm just a bad influence with watches. I'm a bad influence everywhere I go. So this, I one day he wanted to go to. There was a total eclipse of the sun in La Paz, which is right at the foot of the uh, Baja Peninsula, Baja Sur. So I said, "Look, you pay for the gas, and I'll fly you down there." So we flew down to La Paz, landed, and saw this incredible total eclipse of the sun. Hopped back on a plane and came back. Well, he got really interested in airplanes, which is another. You think watches are expensive? Airplanes are too. So after he sold the company, and had this, literally millions and millions of dollars. He got into flying in a big way, and I saw he had one of these old Texas trainers. That was an amazing airplane. I mean, for a civil aviation pilot. And so now, what sort of the story is here is that how everything can be transformed in a very quick way, and this thing we've been seeing that took Amazon 20 years almost before they started making a profit, and then they made a huge profit, and on top of that, they also are dictating the market, and so a lot of people are mad at them for that. And so, okay, so what is going to happen with watches? Okie doke. Let's take a look here. Okay, let's see. What's going on? Hi, Tim. Um, I have been cleaning my office, but not for watchmaking. Still expecting you to put it together. Not a problem. Um, I used to smuggle watches inside a goat. Oh, come on, man. I wouldn't do that to a goat. I'd, I'd smuggle it on the wrist of a watch nerd. Um, no, I used to fly down to Mexico quite a bit. We were the only people smuggling drugs into Mexico with our clinics. Okay, the group thinkers say at home buying online from big tech while the local businesses are dying. Fahrenheit, that's exactly what's happening. And that is exactly it. I couldn't put it better myself. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but what happened to the farriers? What happened to all of the blacksmith shops when cars replaced them? The smart ones became mechanics because they adapted, and I think that's what we see. We see people adapting right now a huge way. Now the economy is in huge big trouble. We had no planning for the pandemic. Instead, we sort of, not we, but our fearless leaders. Never mind. Don't get me started. But the thing of it is that the idea that it's going to come back exactly the same. Now, if I'm running a business, what are they talking about? They're talking about another round of this stuff in November, right? Okay, so here we are. We're in, it's May 4th. May 4th be with you. Forgot about that. Okay, so we're going to have something similar happen again around sometime in November. Whether we'll be, I mean, that's all we need right now. Um, but okay, so here you're a business person, and you had to sort of disemploy just about all of the people working for you, and then you found one part of it that you could do online, and let's say that involved 4 or 5 employees. Okay, so you have this. So now you come back again, and you know that in November there's a likelihood that you're going to have this happen again. Now, there's one or two things you can do. You can do things the same way that you did before the pandemic, or you can make changes to adjust to the pandemic, or or whatever comes next. And if this is going to be just as efficient and save you money, what do you think is going to happen? See, this a lot of stuff, a lot of businesses are using really online working for the first time right now, not because they want to, but because they have to. So this is the kind of thing I sort of wanted to kick out there for everybody. Okay, what's happening in November? Well, well, this is when they predict there's going to be a second wave of it. That's the second wave of the. Right now, they're thinking is that this first wave will go through, and there will be some what they call herd immunity, but then it's going to come back again in November, I, or sometime around then. Okay, and so we're going to have the same problem all over again. Um, let's say that that's absolutely wrong. Let's say come around November, everything is fine. There's no more people, dropping because of COVID-19, or they find some kind of inoculation against it. Oxford University has been working on one for like 3 or 4 years, and they happen to have one that looks like it may work within the next 6 months or so. Now, um, but the point is that Rich, is that if okay, um, yeah, yeah, the CCP virus. If we, if the changes that have been made for the businesses that this has affected, and they've been able to adapt to some extent using some kind of online solution and saving money by doing so, do you think they're going to give it up? That's that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's comfortable. I'm saying this this may be a thing. Some companies like HMOs have already said, "Look, guys, we got to have an online store," and boom, they did it. How other ones already have that. I don't know. I haven't done anything very systematic, and that might be a fun thing to do, is to go out and see exactly how many companies does Brigade and Bulgari and yada 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 do they have? Can you go directly to them and buy things? So some guy out in Squash Dog, Oklahoma, can get any kind of watch he wants. Well, if that's a market that really hasn't been opened, yeah. Round two is coming. The point is to be proactive and prepared, if able to monitor and trace this thing. Oh, yeah, I agree, Kevin. That's exactly what we need to do. But the problem is that we have we have no good leadership that I can see. Not for a pandemic. I don't know what it's for anyway. I get. I'm not a person who loves politicians. Trust me, and but I know we need them. I have a bunch of close friends who have lost a friend and family already. Yeah, it's no joke. Um, I have our daughter's business. She said does she does packaging design. Okay, if you go down and get a Jello, it was a package that she designed. So she does that. Well, can you do that from home? Easy, very easy to do it from home because you've got your big computer, you got your programs and everything else, and you do it and you send it in. Early on, when we first started emailing manuscripts, this is back, I think, as early as the 80s sometime. Um, when we started doing that, man, that changed everything. When, especially if you could send it on At first, it was they wouldn't allow you to put it on a laser printer, and you couldn't do your what's it called, your page setup on a laser printer, even though they had programs to do that. But they relented because it was so much cheaper. And so then they started doing it slowly but surely. It happened, and as software companies kept coming up with more software for doing that, and now it's totally different. You don't even have to send a manuscript in. The way you send a manuscript in is you email it, and or you put it in a PDF file, and boom, 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 it goes out to 50 editors and everything else. It's just not, those things were adaptations. Clyde, core values. That's true, but they have to figure out a way to do it online. I think that, you know, I worry about my kids naturally, not to mention my grandkids. My grandkids, though, they got plenty of time to prepare. Uh, we had another one of our sons that just went to work for this company, and wham! I mean, how would you like a brand new job at an almost a dream job, and then you find out you can't go to work because they closed the office down and they want you to do everything on from your apartment or something. It's worked out great. Everything worked out great. But if he had done it like almost a week later, he wouldn't have not they would the job wouldn't have been available. Yeah, and just sort of like the pandemic, there's going to be sort of a before and after thing, just like there was with 9/11. The attitude toward New York changed dramatically after 9/11. A lot of things changed after 9/11. And the same thing's going to happen again. Uh, there's going to be a before and after the pandemic. Uh, so you have things like the changes I think that we're in for are going to be important. I think I've mentioned this before, but I think Ophium is sort of an interesting new model of taking really high quality and have them put it together for them, or make the components and they slap it together. And Bob's your uncle. They got this watch with this incredible case they could put in. They're not using Vosseur, but they could, and some other kinds of things like that, where we can get our mitts on some really good watches. Now, if you're you either buy the watch or buy the brand. A lot of times they both go together, but sometimes they don't have to. You can buy a really good watch and discover something new. How many of you ever heard of Philippe Dubois? Anybody? Anybody have a watch by Philippe Dubois? You're really feisty this morning. I don't know what it was. I got my lawnmower fixed yesterday, and I and I'm feeling smart because I got my lawnmower fixed. Oh, you're talking about something being feisty. Okay, not me. Um, Joaz, hi, how you doing? Appliance might be controlled by gesture to limit touch interaction. Hmm. Let's see what's going on. I heard of Philippe Philip, but I don't recall what watches his watches look like. Uh, I think it was called Philippe Dubois et Fils. Mhm. And I found some interesting watches there. I can't. That's about it. Roger Dubois, but not familiar with Philippe Dubois. Yeah, most people aren't, which is something that I found something I've been looking for there. So I that may be something that I'll be sneaking after. Hey, Paulo Shea, how you doing? Was he on the Orient Express? Yes, he was. He was the guy with the big mustache. Let's see. There's a few good ones from the UK, but they are mostly narrow boats. Mine is wide beam Dutchy. Okay, Perot's partner, right? His sidekick. He was Perot's Mr. Watson. Hey, Raj. No, I don't mean Dufour. Everyone's heard of Philippe Dufour. Which independents do you think are marketing their brands well at present? I mentioned Ophion. That's one. I think Moser is getting smart about it too. Let's see. There's some brands that you you have to go through a certain cycle of things to get what you want. One of those would be Kerry Boot and Lannon. It's getting to be that way, I think, with Gronfield too. You have certain ones that don't make a lot of watches, but the watches they make are so good, they can't make enough to satisfy everyone. You have that with FP Journe. Okay, let's see. Yeah, we all despise the hype in marketing, but a brand that doesn't master its risks becoming Betamax of the industry. Most watches are Betamax, I think, and the reason we don't know about them is that they've come and gone. I don't know how long Volcane, for example, is going to be able to hang on by its fingernails. I think they're down to like 5 employees or something like that. I don't know. Okay, you love the Patek gondolas with the black numerals on light background. Me too. I just love those. Hey, Graham, Dubois at Phil's watches are marketed well in the UK. Prices from 5,000 quid. Okie doke. Hey, Dwayne, how you doing? What are your thoughts about Laurent Ferrier? Oh boy, Laurent Ferrier is. I think I may have mentioned this before. So I I have to find a watch of his that if I put it on, I it feels right to me. I had gone in and tried on a number of them and found them they didn't have the heft I liked. And there's nothing. I love the designs of Laurent Ferrier's and a number of. In fact, that's how I ended up getting my regulator, my $200 regulator. I saw one by um, Laurent Ferrier. I think it was called a maybe it was it a square? It's one of those Gallet Square that was and and that one I really like, but at 40,000 bucks, nah, I'm going to use my regulator checkbox with my $200 one. Uh, Laurent Ferrier is the kind of thing. It's just elegant. They have very elegant looking watches, and so there was one that I put up on High Horology Lounge the other day, yesterday, I think, as a matter of fact, and it was like $115,000. They only made 12 of them, but it's a real sports watch, and it was very cool looking sports watch. But if you're gonna make a sports watch that expensive, I don't know. Maybe he's got a market for them. Certainly not me. Okay, I would say Longa is the best value for money pre-owned at the moment. Moser is a close second. I don't know. I think Moser more so than A Longa. A Longa has taken a I think. That's just my opinion because somebody really who's a lot smarter than I am about watches told me that. Um, you know, I I'm not saying that's absolutely right. Hey Blake, I share the sentiments, Phil. LF makes great watches, but something was just missing. Yeah, geezer, that's you put it better than I did. When something's missing, you don't know what it is, and you got they want 40,000 bucks for it. You better rethink it. Um, I when I went out to work in my shed yesterday, I had on a $25,000 watch. I said, I can't wear this because I love wearing all my watches. I can't wear this. So I came back in and put on my Seiko 5, and of course it loves to be worn and go out and get grease and stuff all over it. Okay, hey Dwayne, let's see. A scene that more people go to Calatrava. I see them nearly every day. I only see somebody wearing a gondola once in a blue moon. Always look spot on. You know, Calatravas, I found a Calatrava I like. I have a Calatrava, but I found one I like better, and it's at 6,000 G. That one I really like, even though it has a black dial on it. The way they have good contrast with the indexes and so forth. But Calatravas are more than they used to be. They used to be just these nice, very formal dress watches, and now they have a Calatrava Pilot. They have a Calatrava, one with the hand date. They have so many different Calatravas now. And gondolas, man, I tell you, if they are unpopular, you come to daddy. Those are the ones that I'm waiting for to go down to a certain point and see if I can grab one. But right now, I don't know. They're still pretty expensive. I think something below 10, you can start. I can start like putting some money together for it. The new watch this year was not even that new. Yeah, something. Let me see. Yeah, $50 now an ounce in 1 ounce. 21 Australian dollars. Whoa, man, 21,000? No, I don't think it's that for an ounce, is it? What is that? Let's see. Okay, Vianney Halter, Deep Space Watch is awesome horology. You know, uh, Vianney Halter is a guy that was really hot back in the early 2000s. He seems to have faded, and you don't see a lot of his watches. And then you do have some dramatic ones. Maybe just doing what he wants. You could care less about this. What about the Patek Neptune? Love the Neptune. Absolutely love the Neptune. The Neptune, the Patek Philippe Neptune with the bracelet is I that's another one. I could easily fall off the wagon for that one too. I like it a lot. Um, the deep space is awesome. Speaking of deep space, that could be a March 4th watch. Or May 4th, I mean. May 4th. God, the time goes by. I call the Neptune the orgy watch. Oh, sounds like a fun watch to me then. Is definitely the best value for the money from Palette Philippe. I really like them, and the price is low at the moment. You bet. Hey, Adam, what's up? Anyone know anything about harass watches? Yeah, they are. Are they the ones that make the KK1 or something like that? They have some kind of movement that they make themselves. They're very inexpensive. The movements are inexpensive. Yeah, the K1, that's it. If you look at those, they could be a Myota if you didn't know any better. I'm not saying they copied Myota. I'm just saying the way the quality I think has got a ways to go on those. I like the sort of the pluck of Horaz. Let's see. I had a VC Overseas one with a screwed up clasp. Yep, that's what I had too. I love that thing. Thing cost me $1,500 to sort out. Be careful. Yeah. Listen, I tell you, if you have the VC, the Vacheron Constantin Overseas one with a clasp that keeps popping open, don't worry about it. I wore that thing for years, and the clasp would pop open, and what happens is you get used to it. You just give it a tap, and it's fine for another few hours before it decides to pop off again. I Either that or you can spend $1,500 and have it all fixed up. But that watch was God, that was a joy. I like the Neptune complications, but I think the servicing on it would be double. Yeah, it might be pretty expensive. You are not a fan of odd watches? Oh, I no, 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 Rich buddy, that's not true. I love MB&F. I Some I like, some I don't. I mean, because something is odd isn't why I like it or dislike it. It's something is different, and I like it. It's because something about it. Let's face it. You take a look at the my Beauvais 1930. There's nothing about that thing that is conventional. All right. So no, there's certain ones I really like. Some I can't afford, and so I don't pay that much attention to them. But other ones I find very interesting. One that by Moser is that I don't know what they call it. It's like jumping hours, I think, is where they have all those three wheels with the time. That I think is very cool. Hey, Rick Hector, what do you think of Ball Moon Tide Watch? I'm a boater, fisherman. May have been looking at a tide watch. I know it's based on ETA, but it looks great. Rick, it's a funny thing for me to say this, okay? But I once went looking at the divers in a diving shop. Not a single one was mechanical. They all had these other things on them that were very important for divers with information that wouldn't be as reliable on a pure mechanical watch. And I got a feeling with tides and things like that. Now, if you want one that is a mechanical one, uh, the Moon Tide one by Ball is fine for a pure mechanical one. If you want one that's pure craftsmanship, the one by Kristen Vanderklaw, they have a Tide and Moon one too, but those things, 30, 40,000 bucks. So the Ball would be if for a mechanical one, for one that you want to be sure that you have really good accuracy for navigation, I would go with something like a one going to a fishing shop and they'll have different ones for depths and you name it. That just that's just my thing. I love the MB&F legacy machines. Yes, who doesn't? Yeah, those I think are great, beautiful watches. The 5024 Gondolo. I like I think it's a 5124 Gondolo that I really like. 5124G, I think. I'm not sure see what happened was that in before the 51 series of gondolas, they had circular ones. And the really beautiful shape movement they made for the 2124 or 5124, really nice. Uh, let's see, the Tide watches are very interesting, and I could really use that complication. Yeah, they have a Rich. Take a look at Christian Vanderklaw. This guy is sort of nuts about him. He's also like a master watchmaker too. Um, see, love the idea behind MB&F. How Max Busa defines LMs as the thing about the legacy machines, man. Look at the way they have the sort of a little tripod that holds up the. That thing is amazing. You can see all the movements going along. Vulcane has one. Ooh, I didn't know that, Crappy. That's an interesting thing. I will definitely look into a Tide watch from Vulcane because they're probably a pretty good buy, and also they have their own. Well, I don't know. Something you'd be surprised with Vulcane. Some of their movements are even the Vulcane movements are one thing, but sometimes they'll have some other modules in there. A new IWC mod. Oh, why those little Max Booser, great guy. 6 to 8K, that's not too bad. Hey, done. Let's see. Boulevard Accutron 214 or 218 Moon See Through. I tell you, I haven't had a Bulova Accutron since the 60s or 70s. And I got one when they first came out when I was much younger. And lasted for a while and broke. And that was my last experience with it. So I really don't know much about them. Tom Austin, the IWC Portuguese or Yacht Club. What about, oh, wait, no. The Yacht Club would be, that one has a tide thing. MB and the H Sherman. I think, let's see, Urek. Okay, Abdul, you got that's an interesting take on that, especially adding Urek to that mix. Okie doke. Yeah, they got some some automatas or some robots, wind up robots. Okay, guys, let's see. Oh, wow, this is way over today. Sorry about that. Um, well, anyway, yeah, I know it's been an hour. Sorry, Clyde. Sorry, everyone. I got carried away. I'm so happy that I fixed my mower. I'm beside myself. Take care, everybody. Be safe, and if you're around this afternoon around 4 o'clock Eastern, hope to see you then. And may 4th be with you.